I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Welcome back to the podcast.
What's up?
Sup?
I'm over here petting my dog.
Yeah, Remy's always a part of the podcast these days.
Sure. Guest on the podcast. Should actually do that soon. I was thinking about that today. Should invite some of our couple of friends onto the podcast and either do like you and the wife and then me and the husband, or maybe do all four, something.
That would be a good late night Shabbat activity.
Hey, that'd be crazy. Yeah, make it another 2 o'clock in the morning ordeal.
Yeah.
So we went. Oh, hey, there's another washer. That's crazy. I'll have to put that in after this podcast. I'm like a squirrel over here tonight, all over the darn place.
Sure.
So I started taking my microphone apart right before this podcast started, and because I was trying to adjust all the million different things on the stand here, and apparently when I did that, I fixed most of it, but I forgot to put a washer, or I missed putting a washer in one of the places here. Yeah, so on that note, we have a fellowship that we go to every Friday night, typically, well, I'd say about 95% of the time, you know. Either
98.
yeah, we try to make it an every Friday night thing. The family and the couple that host, unless their family's sick or something, they host every Friday. And then if they are sick, or if they're just a little wore down from the week or whatever have you, we try to host at our house sometimes too. And this last week was pretty incredible because we had, it ended up, we went till like 2 o'clock in the morning, and
Yeah.
it wasn't like an intentional. It's just, there was these different groups that occurred, and we had talks about life and God and scripture and just all kinds of stuff. And it was just like these really in-depth conversations that are just stuff you don't normally see. And so we ended up just going where the night took us, and yeah.
Yes. And no, we are not Jewish, but we do practice Shabbat.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. And most people think that's only a Jewish thing. So
Yeah, for us, it's about time, I guess. Just being able to have fellowship with other families and people, and individuals too, in some cases, that we can just spend time together and read through scripture and talk about stuff, and just have a good time, and I guess spend time instead of going out drinking and partying on a Friday night, right? Or wasting it away in front of a TV, right? We have fellowship, so
yeah, welcoming in the Sabbath.
yeah. Anyways, that's not at all what we're talking about here tonight.
No.
So what we're actually talking about tonight, though, is banter. And, this has been on our list for a while of something we wanted to talk about. And I had this, I don't know, epiphany revelation last time we were doing a podcast, and it had to do with banter. And it wasn't directly related to banter. It was like a connecting the dots situation. And I started thinking about certain things, right? And I wanted to talk about banter because there was certain things that like we've done in our relationship. And I will say that it can be true of any relationship. Doesn't matter which partner, which sex does this. It can be true. And that is like, I guess, taking banter to a little bit unhealthy place, to the point of it having lasting effects, right? And there's the obvious ones, right? Like if you're putting your your partner down on a regular basis, that's obviously like a no-go, right? And I feel like we can talk about it, we can mention it, but that should be a pretty obvious one, right? If you're struggling with putting your partner down all the time, you really need to look internally as to like what's going on inside of you that you feel you need to put somebody else down, and why are you making your partner that person, especially because that just tells me that you are making the closest person to you an easy target, and you need to fix whatever's going on inside of you.
I think that's a lot of insecurity or I don't I think it's more insecurity about yourself
Oh,
or
100%.
feeling like you're afraid of your partner being better than you. I don't know.
Yeah,
I there
100%.
was a lot of that, to be honest, in my previous marriage, like a lot of like teasing and banter that was supposed to be funny, but it was definitely like trying to make fun of me intentionally.
Yeah, and um that's why I wanted to talk about this, right? Because I realized something. We had a discussion, right? Of like something that we do, and it was where it was something that was like a playful game, um and it even became a little too much to where it actually started affecting our relationship. And that's when I thought about it, I'm like, how many people probably struggle with this, right? And like I said, we're not talking about the people that are intentionally trying to put down their partner, right? We addressed that. It's not what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Um, because that's an obvious one that needs to get solved. But I want to talk about the banter that starts playful and fun. And I want to talk about, can banter be healthy and what leads to it becoming unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? Because if you can't tease each other a little bit, if you can't make fun of each other a little bit, you're I feel like that's a red flag for your relationship.
I think there's a difference. Like teasing each other together, just like in private, is different than doing that in public in front of
Right.
other people.
Right.
And there should be like a level of just having fun and being silly and teasing each other in private. In front of other people, that's when it becomes like mm, we shouldn't be doing that because other people don't know what your level of like, hey, we're just kidding is.
Mhm.
And they are likely to take that out of context.
Well, I think yeah, I mean, that's an important differentiating factor there too, is talking about what that looks like, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, there's a level of fun and teasing that I guess is natural, right? And happens and can be fun and playful. And I think what you're referencing a lot of too is where you take it a little farther, right? Because there is a level of teasing and banter that just occurs naturally, that if done in a healthy way can be something fun inside of Remy. Dude. Oh my
This
Lanta, this
dog.
dog. In the middle of us podcasting, in case you couldn't hear him shaking himself off a minute ago, Amber and I are much like we typically do, where we, share a blanket while we do our podcast here. And the dog apparently decided he had to be the center of attention and decided to walk over, plop on both of our feet on top of the blanket, half pulling the blanket off of both of us, and just made himself a nice home there. Anyways, um, so getting back to the banter thing, right? There's a level of banter and fun that's going to occur naturally, and especially when you guys are connected and um in a good, healthy place in your relationship, right? And that will occur even out in public, even, whatever. Then there's the next level of banter where you can go a little deeper, you can make fun of each other a little more, that's probably not or shouldn't occur out in public, right?
Mhm.
And then there's a level of like, okay, now you're crossing the line, right? But here's the challenge, right? And this is why I want to talk about this, because those lines between, we'll call it stage 1, 2, and 3 of banter and playfulness, are not definitive lines.
Mhm.
And the issue with that is true inside of relationships, and we've experienced it, we've seen it, is that even if you are in any one of those zones in the proper areas, that gray area of that line done over time can also push it into the next phase,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, the let's not talk about, or not necessarily, I don't want to say not talk about, but not necessarily even like what you were referencing, where there's a level of banter and stuff that should occur in private that was more of like blatant putting you down, and to be honest, a lot of that was probably that stage 2 and 3 that was just 100% of the time, right? And so you're crossing that line of like shouldn't happen at all and should be in private, and it's just in private, in public, whatever, all the time.
Well, I can give an example of it. Like, it used to happen when we'd have friends over or whatever, and we'd just be like having fun, laughing, whatever. And I have this like one vein in my head that, like, when I start like really laughing and whatever, like it tends to pop out. And that used to be something that, like, we'd be having fun, just laughing, doing whatever. And then all of a sudden it would be like oh, look at Amber's forehead vein. And I used to get so self-conscious of it because it was like this teasing thing, but was more like making fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
That became like a self-conscious thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's something that, like, that's just crossing a line. Like, that's like making fun of your partner. Whether you think it's like, "Oh, I'm just being silly. I'm just whatever." Like, probably not something you should be doing in front of other people.
I think that brings it to a better part of this would be understanding your partner
Mhm.
and understanding where they're at and their own insecurities and being able to identify that so that way you can do that effectively, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I wanted to take this, of like examples of things that we've done that or have experienced that are like, okay, this is probably too much, right? But also have examples of things that are like, okay, this makes sense,
Yeah.
right? A perfect example of that would be playing dice earlier,
Mhm.
right? So we were over at a friend's house and earlier, and the kids were playing together, and all the adults we were playing dice, right? Just a dice game. And it was like the the dice luck was not in your favor,
No.
right? Like the entire night, the dice luck was not in your favor. And I made a joke, and it was, babe, I love you. You're great at so many things, and I love that about you, but dice, this just isn't one of them, right? And we laughed about it, and everybody laughed, and we joked, and it was a fun thing. There was, I think, at one point, uh what was it? You'd mentioned something and made a little joke about not being, it was during the dice game. It was like not being good at something with the dice, or, anyways, it was something along those same lines, right? And it was funny. We laughed about it, whatever. That kind of stuff, right, is like okay banter, right? It's fun. You can laugh about it, right? And it wasn't like this beating you down, you just suck at dice, like you shouldn't play, like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't that. Like it was, hey, here's an uplifting thing, like, I love that you're so great at so many things. This, not one of them, right? And like joked about it, whatever. And like you said though, right? It was the time because like there's been times that you've kicked my butt at dice, right? Or other board games that we've played. And it was one of those things that we were making fun of the moment. It's not anything that you're self-conscious about. It's not putting you down personally, right? It's like us making fun of the moment, right?
Yeah.
Um, but let's go into one, right, of banter that can be taken too far
Mhm.
and where we notice it in our relationship,
Mhm.
right? So, um, part of my coaching with other men and business owners in general, I tend to focus on them, but also their relationship, right? Because I don't want this when I'm coaching you. Like, if you're the kind of person that is so dedicated to their business that their family is just an accessory of their life, their spouse is the accessory of their life, it's not part of their life, and their business is just everything. I'm going to teach you how to fix that. But if you're not going to listen, like you're not somebody I want to work with, right? Now, let me preface that by saying most people don't understand how to do it. And that's where I can help you. If you just have no desire, that's completely different, right?
Yeah.
So I'm giving this context to say, as part of that, we had earlier, done a relationship audit, right? I developed this form that I use for clients, and we talked about it. Or I mentioned it tonight. Then maybe we would just do that as part of the podcast, right? Like one of the websites we have a few for different businesses related to all this sort of stuff. Just put it up and give people that, and maybe that's a project we'll work on next. But um, this relationship audit helped us identify, because if I'm going to use it for people and help others, I'm going to use it for us and help us too, right?
Yeah.
And we identified a couple of spots where it's like, okay, this is one of our downs, right? Let's focus. So these areas are ones that maybe we did or didn't really realize we were lacking in, but it gives us a clear picture and it also gives us the ability to write out a clear plan of, okay, let's bring this up, right? Because you're not everything in your relationship isn't going to be, a 5 out of 5 at every given moment. But the goal is to get all areas of your relationship up as high as it can,
Yeah.
right? And so one of those areas that we identified was the physical intimacy,
Mhm.
right? Had was lower than we'd like it. And we started saying, well, that's okay. Let's talk about this. Now, that being said, right, for us, lower than we like it is still more than probably 98% of couples out there, right? So
Yeah.
we have to preface that in the sense of like, because, all these listeners, we talk about this and they're going to go, oh, they're talking about relationships and they don't have sex, da 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 da. No, like it's far more than the average, right? If you look at any sort of statistics of what is average, it's far more than that. I can assure you. However, like it is something that is important to us, and we had identified this as like, hey, this is down from where we would like to see it.
Yeah.
Well, why is it down? Right. And so part of this audit is the fact that you can go through and identify whatever area of your relationship, why it's lower than you'd like it, and then come up with an action plan to fix it. Right. And there was two areas, but I want to bring this one up as an example because when we identified that, it was something that we had talked about recently as well. And then having, auditing our own relationship, we were able to clearly see that on paper in a visual. And one of the ways that we talked about the improvement is the way we talk about intimacy, right? And I was like, well, I'm going to change this. And how all this connects is back to the banter, right? Because one way that we identified that banter going a little bit too far was some of our intimacy and our conversations around it. And when we joke,
Mhm.
right? And I have this joke because, well, I guess the best way to put it is like I do have more self-control than most men, but you and I are actively, I guess, seeking intimacy. It's not like most marriages or relationships where like, it's this whole thing of like, oh, it happens maybe once a week and the guy's is like a lost puppy dog and oh, hopefully and like if I don't push it, she
Yeah.
never wants to kind of thing. Like we don't deal with that, right?
Yeah.
And so what we realized though in this was because of that dynamic, we've made this little bit of a joke out of like you chasing me.
Mhm.
And then what I realized, or in our conversation that you had brought up and I realized was, well, maybe that joke is a little bit too far, right? Of me telling you, oh, I don't care about sex or I don't care about, but doing it so much. And then even when we're being fun and playful and, making a joke about us doing stuff and I'll make a joke and I say, "Oh, if you're lucky," right? Or
Mhm.
whatever, right? Which is okay, but when it's the frequency that it is and me saying I don't care about that on a regular basis, it created the situation where it was too much, right? And
Mhm.
then it started programming you to where, well, I really don't care about it,
Mhm.
right? And then when we would be playful and if you were pursuing me and I'd play, like hard to get or you got to work for it or anything, then it would bring up this insecurity of, well, he's compounded this fact that, you know, he doesn't want it. And then it becomes a cycle, right? And then we end up in this big cycle where it all has to do with the banter and the play and
Mhm.
taking it too far, when in reality, physical intimacy is important to both of us. It does matter for connection. It is important for any healthy relationship. But by taking banter a little too far, we started swinging the other way of, not that it's not often, not that it's not fun, not that it's boring, because it's none of those things, right? And but what it is it's not as great as we'd like it to be because of really mainly one thing, right?
Yeah.
In the sense that like the banter has gone too far and the fun and the playfulness has almost become too much of a game to where it's over the line,
Yeah.
right? And that's what I wanted to talk about. And that's what made me think about the fact and the epiphany I had, right, was in this other um, podcast. We had said something, and I, to be honest with you, don't recall what that one thing was, but it made me connect the dots of, hey, I need to change this,
Mhm.
right? And I need to joke and it's okay to joke. And I mean, even like the other night, like I think we were at the store or whatever, we were doing some sort of shopping and, it was this joke and I made a joke like I was going to do things in the bedroom and you said something back and it was kind of this playful banter back and forth. And, I'd even kind of commented, oh, well, if you're lucky, and like we laughed and smiled and like whatever.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a big deal. But in general, changing it to be more of a mutual playful back and forth instead of the way I was almost stonewalling you because I would play and play and play, and the banter would get too far to the point of like you like actually felt some type of way about yourself. And so that's a great example though of how banter can go too far,
Yeah.
right? And you it can affect parts of the relationship unintentionally,
I think you've
right?
thought about this a lot lately because it's also the same thing about like greeting you at the door.
Uh-huh.
And we've had this conversation too because I used to do that all the time, but there kind of became a point where you would make jokes and be like, "Oh, I'm busy,"
Right.
and like try to move out of the way of like saying hi to me. And like I do think sometimes you were joking about it, but it kind of got to this point of where I was like, "Well, okay, if you're too busy for it, then I'll just stop doing it."
Right. And then and then that was, we actually, funny enough, discovered this because we never like we there's been comments made, but it wasn't something that we really discussed, right? And I didn't do my job and say, hey, why did you stop? Right? Because that's a whole nother thing of like, looking back to looking for signs and looking at red flags or looking at things in your relationship. Like if she stops doing something or her patterns change and it was something that was positive, you need to look at why, because you're probably doing something, right? And I should have sooner asked and said, hey, why did you stop this? Right. But
Yeah.
it did come out in the sense, and what I will applaud in our relationship is we do have enough communication and enough closeness that even if I don't ask, or even if it's something that, maybe I changed and you should have asked, whatever it is, right? It still comes out. It just takes longer, a little bit longer than we probably would like it to because we didn't ask directly, right? And in this case, it was one of those things where um, I think you were giving me crap for greeting the dog better,
Mhm.
than I greeted you that specific day, and it was this thing of you going, oh, well, you give the dog more attention coming in the door. And I made the joke about, well, he runs down and greets me down, coming down the stairs as I'm coming up the stairs. So maybe you should greet me in the stairs. And
Mhm.
then it was kind of like this joke back and forth, but you had made a comment and you go, well, I used to, but you didn't give me attention, or what, however,
Yeah.
the discussion was on that exact thing. Um, and then it was like, oh, wait a second. Right.
Mhm.
And then that, like, I put two and two together once again of like the banter. It went too far, right? Because you did greet me. You did run up to me. You did, happy and come down halfway down the stairs and meet me and want to throw your arms around me. And then it was like, okay, well, I would make that joke of, oh, I'm busier. Like, get out of my way, lady. I'm trying to get up the stairs. Just
Yep.
something that at the time was like, hey, I'm being playful or whatever, but it was enough that it was like after a while you started believing it.
Yeah.
And that's another example of how the banter can go too far. And that doesn't mean don't have fun and don't be playful,
Mhm.
but you have to be, I guess, sensitive would be a good word.
Yep.
Sensitive and also cognizant of how you are doing it, when you are doing it, and the manner in which you're doing it around what topics,
Yeah.
right? Because that's like you and I, we do play. We do have a lot of banter,
Yeah.
right? We have banter and tease each other probably all day. And 98% of the time, it's fun, it's playful. We both laugh and it ends in us kissing and hugging each other and showing each other love and affection. But there are some things that were big things that like it went too far.
Another one I can think of that I think happens in far more relationships than it should is men making the joke of getting a side chick.
Mm,
And it's happened in every one of my relationships. So maybe it's just a
yeah.
random occurrence, but I think that it happens far more with men than it should. And like, yeah, there's times where we joke about it and it's funny, whatever. But I think for a majority of women, like that is an actual fear or insecurity. So that, and the way that it's usually joked about
Mm-hmm.
triggers that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a great example of timing, placement, and understanding your partner, right?
Yeah.
Because there's also a difference, right? And we've had this conversation before of like, if you, oh, what's a good, you know, if I'm like, hey, I want you to cook more, you need to step up your game, and you know, maybe that's triggering to you because you cook, whatever amount of nights a week, but 4 out of 7 nights a week, but Friday is pizza night with the family. So really you don't cook two, and you're always doing this, and you have a full-time job, and you do this and you do that, right? And you're already feeling like overwhelmed.
Mhm.
That can be a little bit triggering, right?
Yep.
And maybe, I say, oh, you need to start cooking more and step up your game a little bit because, I'm tired of frozen chicken nuggets on the weekend or something, right? And you come back with some thing about how I need to help around the house more, or, I need to do X, Y, and Z. And then I say, oh, well, if you don't step it up, I'll just get a side chick.
Mhm.
I'll cook for me or something, right? Like that's a perfect example of being over the line, right? And like you were saying, perfect example of that, right?
I think a lot of times it happens around intimacy too, which is another
Hmm.
big trigger for women.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially like we've talked about that, right? Like we've talked about it a bunch, and it's if she's not doing the things that you want, right? Once again, put the little disclaimer in there that we do every time because there's always those one-off cases that are like, yeah, see, I told you so. It's like, dude, you want some crazy stuff that she's not into, right? Like, maybe she's like never experienced certain things, and you're trying to be Mr. Gray from 50 Shades of Grey and have a whole dungeon, and she's, you know, she doesn't even know what half the terms even are, right?
yeah.
And whatever, right? Like there's one-off crazy things, but for the most part, if she's not doing stuff as regularly as you would like, or like a big one we've talked about, blowjobs, she's
Mhm.
not doing that, it's probably because you're not doing your job, right? Like, well, let's be honest. And then there's the whole where instead of figuring out where you're falling short, that's making her closed off and making her not want to be intimate with you, or just randomly,
Yeah.
you know, do things to you. You make a joke and go, oh, well, it'd be nice if you do this more. If you don't step it up, I'm going to have to get a side chick,
Yeah.
right? Like, that's definitely the stage 3 of like, you shouldn't be joking like that,
Yeah.
right? Um, there's a lot of these, right, that you see commonly in relationships that are, you shouldn't be going there, right? And I will lead with this caveat as well. Every relationship is different, right? And just because, you know, something is off limits to one person doesn't necessarily mean it is to the next, but there's stuff that really shouldn't be joked about in general,
Yeah,
right? Banter about divorce or replacing your partner with another person of the opposite sex because they quote unquote won't step up. Those are probably the top two that like these are off limits, right? Don't even joke
sure.
about it because what you put on, your mind can't tell the difference between reality and fiction. We've talked about that. So you joke about it enough, you will subconsciously start making decisions that
Mhm.
sabotage your relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
That being said, you should have fun banter in your relationship,
Mhm.
right?
You need to have inside jokes and just silly things that you do together, and, like, even when we were doing our relationship thing earlier, like, that was something that came up with the, like, physical intimacy stuff was I was like, "We just need to, like, joke and have more fun together and, like, be more playful with each other during the day."
Mhm.
'Cause when we are, like, it usually leads to that.
Mhm.
But if we're, having days where, we're just in our heads and, more serious and whatever, like, we're not doing that, not having fun, not being playful with each other, it usually doesn't lead to intimacy, you know?
Mhm. Well,
S
that's exactly it and like we talked about, the last couple weeks we've been very diligent and very focused on a lot of things. Like we've
Mhm.
had a lot of progress in a lot of areas of our lives, right? Like
Yeah.
when it comes to, some of our parenting revelations, um, business, right? Projects, house projects, personal projects, you know, all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
We have a ton of progress recently, but some of the communication and playfulness throughout the day has been lacking,
Yeah.
right? So the banter we've had hasn't been great, and the fun, good banter has been missing,
Yeah.
right? And I think this is, important to show like, hey, these are real relationship things, right?
Mhm.
But if you just ignore it and you ride things out and wait for it to get really bad and then go, well, I don't, it's too far gone. We can't fix this. Like that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be perfect at any point in time. Like you're not going to get 100% in every area,
Yeah.
right? But that's why we do these things, right? This is why we do things to continue to work on our relationship. And that is like one of the areas that we basically scored the highest marks in was our communication about the relationship and the way that one our faith and our spirituality and putting that high in our relationship, right? Um, as well as the vision, our vision being on the same page because, well, we do discuss it and then
Mhm.
we do have these conversations and, you know, we've talked about it before about, well, what's the best way to do that, right? And we've tried different things, right? We tried to do a weekly relationship check in.
Mhm.
It did not fit for us, right?
Yeah.
I've heard some coaches and some other people talk about that. Well, you have to do this. This is a key to our relationship. And it probably is. It probably works great for them, right?
Mhm.
Didn't work for us.
Mhm.
But we do other things on a regular basis and we continue to implement things in our relationship to continue to work on it, right? That is
Yeah.
one thing that we do consistently. Do we do the same action all the time consistently? No. But like for us, Fridays, making Friday, we have a lunch date every Friday, unless, you know, something crazy comes up. Like that's our thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not going to work for every relationship, right? Every relationship is in a place that they can take a lunch date every Friday,
Yeah.
right? Due to work or other life things. But that's something that we do. The relationship audit, right? Doing the worksheet that's, showing practice of like, we don't just talk about these things. We don't just tell people, right? Like, no, we do these things, right?
Mhm.
And now we have a plan of action. There's things that we're going to change inside of our relationship. There's physical actions that we plan to do to make changes, right? Anywhere that we find that we lack and we continue to try different things to track these things, we continue to try different ways to find what works for us, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the banter, right? Like, we do try different things, we do have fun, we do have playfulness, and we do continue to work on that, right? And when we feel like we're lacking, we're not connecting, or we're not having a lot of fun, we talk about it and we say, hey, why aren't we having fun?
Yeah.
What's, and it's not just this like empty, oh, why aren't we having fun? It's like, no, what's going on in our lives that is not allowing this, because we're both fun and playful people. So when we're not doing it together, it means we're not doing it with anybody, right?
Yeah.
Because when you look at the times in which we're not being fun and playful with each other, we're also not being as fun and playful with the children. We're
Mhm.
not being as fun and playful with friends or family or just people in general, right?
Yeah.
So then it's okay, well, how do we fix that? What's going on in our lives? And we care enough about us and our relationship and each other that we say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah. I think that's a good place to do our, weekly check yourself. Um, I think that you should use this time to evaluate the banter and
Mhm.
joking inside of your relationship and kind of audit it and see if maybe you're doing some of those things that are taking it too far and realize how that's affecting your relationship, or think about the fact that you're not doing it and how you could start implementing, more just fun playfulness with each other and, joking in a positive, fun manner.
Yeah. So go ask each other, sit down with your partner and say, hey, is there anything that I do that we joke about, we have banter about, that it actually really you're self conscious about and affects you?
Hmm.
Because I don't want to be doing things to hurt your feelings. And I want things to be fun.
Yep.
And then also ask them, hey, is there something that you wish we could do to have fun and be more playful with each other and have banter, but we don't ever seem to do?
Yeah.
Or maybe we don't do it enough.
Yeah.
And just ask them, see what they say.
Yeah.
You'd probably be surprised at what they say. The answer is it's
Mm.
probably something that you enjoy as well,
Mhm.
but you just haven't applied because you didn't think it would be, I guess, go well, right?
Yeah. It's a good idea.
All right. On that note, I think we'll leave y'all there. Till next time, we have some fun stuff coming up. Some great ideas for peoples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, have a fantastic week before Christmas and enjoy some time with each other.
Talk to y'all later.